Do you want to pay lower taxes in retirement? Well, Roth conversions might just be for you. Hi, my name's Michelle, and I'm a financial advisor here at Financial Design Studio, where we help business leaders who are retiring in the next 10 years with tax efficiency as a goal. Now, many corporate leaders expect to pay less in taxes once they retire, but between Social Security, pensions, deferred compensation, and required withdrawals, they often find themselves right back in a high tax bracket, just like when they were working. In this video, we will explain what a Roth conversion is, how it helps combat this tax problem, the steps to implement this strategy, and common mistakes to watch out for. All right, so first let's talk about what a Roth conversion is and how it helps to combat this problem of high taxes later in your life. So in this chart, I'm going to use this to kind of explain this. We have a client who is working today and they have high income. So their jobs, whether it's one person or two people, a married couple, you can see they have high income here. And this green line here means that we're in the 32% tax bracket. So while they're working, they've got high income, they're in a high income tax bracket. But once they retire, so at the end of this year, they're retiring. And now you can see we've got several years here where we have very low tax, maybe even no tax. And that's really highlighted by this yellow circle that you can see those years with really low taxes. Now, if we shift forward, and this is really what we're doing, is we're analyzing, okay, what does my tax situation look like over my life? That's really what this chart is showing us. That's really what you need to be looking at to see if Roth conversions make sense for you or if they're even needed. And so now, as we continue to move forward in these years in retirement, you can see there's a point where income all of a sudden just starts to jump up. And so we see these years again with these blue bars where our income all of a sudden is just as high or higher than when we were working. And this can be really surprising for a lot of business leaders when they retire because they think my taxes are going to be lower. I don't have a paycheck coming in, so I shouldn't have as high taxes. However, all of that great saving that you did is now pushing those taxes into the future. So as we look at this, we can see that here later in life, we're going to owe just as much or higher taxes. And you can see that green line again here, showing that we're still in that high income tax bracket. Now, the goal of doing a Roth conversion is to shift some of these high tax years into these low tax years. So what we can notice here is even if we filled up one of these lower brackets, maybe like this 22% bracket, that's much less that we're paying in taxes than this 32% bracket. And so that's really where we're trying to look and we're trying to see if there's opportunities to pay less in taxes over the course of your life. Okay, so the first step that we just looked at was that diagram that showed your lifetime tax brackets or your income over your lifetime so you can see which tax bracket you're going to be in. Now, this example that I'm showing you right now is the federal income tax brackets. So when you're deciding how much to do in a Roth conversion, this is what you really need to be paying attention to. So remember in that diagram, later in life, we were going to be in the 32% bracket. So when we're thinking about doing a Roth conversion, our goal is that anything we're converting today while we're in low rates, we really want to be converting at least 32% or less. So we don't want it to be any higher than that because then we really wouldn't be saving ourselves any money. We're trying to say instead of paying 32% later in life, we're going to pay something less than that today. So let's look at this for a single filer. So if our goal is to be in anything less than the 32% bracket, what we can see here is that that puts us looking at the 24% bracket. So that's as high as we want to go. Now, one of the great things is even by staying in that 24% bracket, that still gives us 8% less in taxes federally than we would have been paying if we just paid this out over our lifetime later. So there is some tax savings there just in that right there. Now, something you might not be aware of is when you're paying income taxes, let's say this same person, let's say we're going to do the most we could do. Let's say we're going to do $197,000 in a Roth conversion to get up to the top of the 24% bracket, but we don't want to go over and pay 32%. So we're going to target our income to be $197,000. Now, one of the interesting things that you might not know is that $197,000 is not all taxed at 24%. The first $11,900 is taxed at 10%. Then Up to 48,000 is taxed at 12%, up to 103 is taxed at 22%, and then what goes over into the 24 is taxed at that rate. So don't think, that all of your income is taxed at 24%. It is a progressive scale where you pay a little bit on the additional funds. So that's someone who's a single filer. It might mean that doing a Roth conversion of up to 197,000, assuming you have no other income, might be a good idea. But there's something else we're going to check. So just hold that thought here. Your Medicare Part B premiums, once you turn age 65, you start on Medicare, and those Part B premiums that you pay now for that insurance are based on your income. And so when you're doing Roth conversions, you need to consider what bracket you're going to be in and what premiums you're going to pay. So let's look at this for this single filer that we were talking about in that first example. We had said that they could do 197,000 of a Roth conversion. That's what we had decided for federal tax purposes, and so that it was still worth it. So we're going to look at this and we're going to say, where you basically just go through each of these boxes. Okay, is my income less than or equal to 106? No, it's greater than. It's greater than 106, but it's not less than 133. So we move up here, and this is where now we can see, okay, someone who's going to do a Roth conversion of that 197, and they don't have any other income. Now their income is greater than 167, but less than 200. So this is the bucket or the premium that we fall into. Okay, so that's the category we're in. So let's slide all the way to the right. And now we can see here, this person is going to pay, if I do this Roth conversion, I am going to pay $480.90 in a monthly premium for that Medicare Part B coverage. Now, this is something that you need to be aware of, because what will happen is when someone starts Medicare at age 65, your income is always based on 2 years prior. So if you're starting your premiums at age 65, they are looking at your income from age 63. So that's what it's based on. So if we're doing a Roth conversion today, this is going to impact our Medicare Part B premiums in 2 years. So it's just something you need to be aware of so that you know when this will impact you. Now, in these examples, you want to now look at this as a combination of the two. So if I were to do this, how will this impact my overall plan? That's really what you're trying to accomplish. And something else you just need to watch out for is we're looking at the federal income taxes and we're looking at Medicare premium payments, but you also need to watch out if your state has an income tax and if this is going to be taxable income there as well. And now, surprisingly, there are a good number of states that actually do not tax retirement income, and Roth conversions are considered retirement income. So in many states, doing a Roth conversion actually is not taxable at the state level. All right, so now we're looking at the whole picture, and we're really kind of looking at the after of we've made a decision to do some Roth conversions here by this yellow circle area. We've decided we're going to do some Roth conversions up to some tax levels, but not over or not too much more than we need to. So we can see here, for example, in this first year of retirement, we're basically going to keep ourselves in that high income tax year. We're going to do one large year where there's going to be a higher Roth conversion amount rather than these fewer years. And this is where you really have to evaluate it year by year, because remember when I said your Medicare premiums, age 65 is when those start, and they look at your income 2 years prior. Well, let's say this is someone who's retiring when they're actually age 60. So someone who is now 61 in their first year of retirement, we're doing a large Roth conversion for. But one of the interesting things is that, so they're 61, we did a large conversion in that year, but 2 years ahead, they're going to be 63 and they won't have started Medicare yet. They still have 2 more years before that high income is really going to impact them. So let's say now year 62, 63, 4, and 5. What you can see is we're actually doing Roth conversions, but we're keeping them in this low 22% bracket. And so what's interesting here is leading up to those Medicare starting ages, you can see that we're being thoughtful of the amount of the Roth conversion that we're doing by not doing too much to push our premiums too high, but we're doing enough so that we're still paying a reasonable amount for Medicare, But we did take advantage of this 1 year in the beginning where we did a high Roth conversion amount. So we took advantage of getting a lot of those funds into Roth IRAs early on. Now we can see we have much fewer years in the 32% bracket. So for a lot of these, they're only paying up to the 24% bracket. We just went to the top of that in these. What we were really doing in these early years was saying, let's do enough to keep most of these later years in lower brackets. What you will notice when you see the accumulated value of how much you're saving in taxes across your lifetime is that number gets to be very large. So by doing a Roth conversion, you're deciding that you want to keep more of your money and save more in taxes. So all by just timing out when I do the Roth conversions, also being thoughtful of taxes or other implications that might come because of the Roth conversions you're doing. Now, there are some common things that you need to watch out for with Roth conversions, and that's that they aren't a silver bullet and they aren't for everyone. So what you notice is we didn't completely wipe out the income tax that this client would pay over the course of their life, but we did minimize the taxes. So it isn't necessarily something that's going to fix 100% of the taxes that you pay. And in fact, it can really mess up your taxes if you don't do them right. So it's really important that you're looking at this year by year. It's great if you can work with a financial advisor who's helping you all year, every year. So if you are someone who's starting to think about retirement and you want to do so in a tax efficient way, we'd love to help you. Click Get Started on our website to schedule a free consultation with our team to discuss your retirement needs. Thanks for watching.